I think she was definitely passing for Black. Hey, what's up? It's Kia with Curadox Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new, hello. If you are returning, what's up? So today I'm going to be reviewing Passing, a movie that was on Netflix. And I seen it a few weeks ago, and I recorded this review a few weeks ago. However, I had to re-record it because of the sound audio issues. So anyway, I'm going to try to get into this video and get it done really quickly. So I'm going to split it up between the two main characters, Claire and Irene. And then we're going to get on out of here. So first of all, I want to say that I appreciate this movie was in Black and white because I did not want to get caught up on how the actresses look, because these actresses do not look like they can pass for white in 2021, 2, whatever. But I'm not sure if that is the same as back in the day, like in 100 years ago in 1920, that's when this movie is set, or the book was set in 1920s. Would these women pass for white, be able to? I don't know. So anyway, it was in Black and white, so I didn't have to worry too much about that. Except when Claire's husband said, she was getting darker as she aged. Moving on. We're going to start with Claire first, I guess, because Claire is the funnest to me. So, of course, we think this is about her, right? She's passing for white. She grew up with Irene. They grew up in the Black neighborhood, I'm assuming, but her parents died and her white aunts raised her, and they raised her as a white girl, probably because it was a lot easier and she was passable. So she ended up meeting a guy, falling in love and getting married kind of young, right out of high school. She had a child. She says she only had one because it was too much stress. She didn't know what color of child she was going to get, if some of her Black features were going to come out, and if she would be exposed. So she had a daughter, and the daughter was passable. So no red flags went up. But Claire, it didn't seem like she had a really strong relationship with her daughter. And my opinion on that, what I'm thinking happened, although she was passing for white, she did not feel white. She definitely resonated with the music, the food, just the camaraderie around Black people. She resonated with that culture more. And because of that, I think she didn't want to rub off on her daughter. She didn't want her daughter to have to pretend or to code switch, I guess, the way Claire was code switching. Now, if she would have raised her daughter, she would only have been able to raise her from the perspective of how she think white people are, or what the culture that, that's not natural to her. So to get around that, she basically sent her daughter to boarding school, and now her daughter can be raised and influenced by white culture. So I think that was one of the reasons why Claire sent her to boarding school. And it did come at a cost of her really not having a relationship with her daughter. So Claire ends up running into her friend Irene. Claire's like, man, I can't get them out of my mind. I want to go back. I want to go back home and see my people. So yeah, she goes back to Harlem, and she's, gets to experience Harlem at its finest, in the 20s. So all of the the music and the clubs and the dancing and the food and everything, right? I don't know what I expected to see, like for them to maybe be scared of her, but when she wanted to dance, like everybody wanted to dance with her. Everybody was, oh, she's so beautiful and this and that. But I'm thinking if there's just some random white woman in a club, if I was a black man in the 20s, if how I would feel about that, I would probably be thinking, set up. But hey, that's just me. That's really all I had to say about her. She was a pretty cool person, and she was supposed to be passing for white. And I believe that's what she was doing. She was passing for white because I don't believe she really felt white. Now, moving on to Miss Irene. Irene is the friend. She's also biracial, and she is living as a Black woman. She married a Black doctor, and she has Black children who are darker in complexion. So Irene can pass as a white woman, and she does it every once in a while when she needs to go pick up something or if she needs to go in the white areas. She'll pass for white, but for the most part, she is living as a Black woman. One thing I noticed when she was passing for white is how nicely she treated the white people, even though she didn't really have to go overboard with that because they just assumed she was white. But there was the opening scene, and there's two white women, and they're talking about some doll, and they're calling this doll a bad word that has to deal with race, and they drop the doll. So Irene picks it up, and she's all, head down, eyes down. Here you are, ma'am. You dropped this. Just so like, just it's out of the character of somebody who would be in that store at the time. And even the ladies were like, oh wow, she's such a nice lady, a nice woman. That struck me because it's like these people are saying negative things about you, about the people you come from, but yet you are still being nice to them when you don't have to. Like nobody would know. And it wouldn't even be bad for you not to pick up this doll that they dropped. They can pick it up on themselves. But you took it upon yourself to pick it up. And then you lowered yourself again. So it was like she has this reverence or this, just putting the white community or the white race up above her. And, I just took notice of that. So when she met Claire in the restaurant, and Claire is giving her the stare down, like I know who you are. You're not white. So she goes up to her, and Irene is trying to scramble out of there because she doesn't want to be found out. But she realizes who it was, and they start talking, and they go back to her hotel, Claire's hotel, and that's when Claire's husband comes in, and he's totally racist, and Irene is uncomfortable then, and she kind of, okay, I have to go now. But I don't know if it was because she felt, well, he would hate me, or I don't know what he would do if he found out that I was not white. Or was it that she really didn't like the way he was talking about Black people? Anyway, back to Irene. Irene was, she had like this anxiety. She was just a ball of anxiety. She was always shaking and always, dropping something, just nervous. And in how I interpreted that was, this girl is passing. This girl does not feel Black. I know a lot of people picked up on that lesbian vibe that she was giving out, like, oh, she's passing for straight, which maybe she was, but also maybe she was just passing for a Black woman when she really felt white, when she really felt like I should be in Claire's shoes, but I accepted the best option for me. If she would have had the same opportunity that Claire had, maybe she probably would have done it and been happier passing for white, because it did seem like, even though she loved her kids and everything, it seemed though as though when she was passing, she was just happier. Besides being nervous that she was gonna get caught, but she was always nervous anyway. There wasn't a time when she looked relaxed, when she was just walking down the street with a Black woman, but that's when she ran into Claire's husband. So there was one comment that Irene made that stuck out to me, and I was like, when she was, with the philanthropist and they were at the little nightclub thing, some type of event. He's white. He's like, well, why don't you pass? Because she was like, oh yeah, Claire is not white, she's Black. And he was like, ooh, you gave me the tea. And he was like, well, why don't you pass for white? She was like, well, we're all passing for something, but it's easier to pass for Black than it is to pass for white. Now, I don't know if she was talking about herself, but ding, 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 it's easier for her to pass for Black because maybe she just didn't have the courage to constantly go out into the world pretending to be white, or to pretending to be 100% white, even though she probably felt mostly white. It was just easier for her because she was able to still marry someone who gave her privilege, gave her the opportunity to stay home, not have to work, to hire help. So that's definitely a privilege. She definitely had an easier life compared to other Black people. So, and that just goes to show, like, biracial people have during that time, like now it's more accepted, people can claim both sides. But back in those days, they were forced to pick a side, and it was kind of unfair to them because they weren't all the way Black, they weren't all the way white. The one thing about Irene that I noticed is that she definitely raised her kids like most white people are known to raise their kids. Those kids were talking back. And she treated the help, quote unquote, like I would expect based on, movies, white women to treat their help. There was one time where she was complaining to her husband, like, I really needed her this weekend. And the husband had to tell her, like, look, she has children of her own. She has a family of her own. She can't be here all the time. And you would think that someone would be understanding of that and wouldn't even ask another woman to give up the weekend. She's already given up the whole week when she can be home with her children, or cleaning her home or whatever. But she's with you and your kids so that you can run out and go to the white side of town and pass whenever you feel like it. Because you can't take these Black kids with you when you go passing. So, but you also want her to give up her weekend too? And it's just like, girl. And when Claire came over, the maid or the help, I don't know what you call her, the help, I don't know. I hate saying the maid and the help. But when Claire came over, she was kicking it with Claire. They was on the outside thing on the swing and talking, and she was like, oh, thank you so much for cooking that for me. I miss this. I don't get this type of food. But Irene she didn't seem to appreciate it. All right, so fast forward to the end, because that was like the big finale of what really happened to Claire. because little Miss Irene, she's already told somebody about Claire's secret. Then she runs into Claire's husband. And when she ran into the husband, I'm kind of like, it was almost like she was satisfied. Like, let me hold this Black woman's arm tighter so he really knows that I'm Black. And if I'm Black, then that means that will give you suspicion about your wife. So now he's putting, stuff together. And he catches them at a party and he goes inside and he's causing a ruckus and like, I want to talk to my wife. She comes out and, it was like when she came out, she was just serene. Like, I'm going to accept whatever is about to happen or I'm done. Like, I'm not trying to save myself anymore. That's kind of how she came out. Another nod to cinematography, the way that it was kind of just, you didn't quite know what was going on. It was the arm here and a face, blurry face here. And all of a sudden, Claire fell out of the window and is on the ground in the snow, and she's dead. We don't know who pushed her or if she fell or if she jumped. We don't know. Those are the possibilities. Either she jumped, she fell, or her husband pushed her, or possibly Claire pushed her. I'm sorry, Irene pushed her. Because there was a little bit of jealousy there. So that's a possibility. Irene was jealous because everybody loved Claire. Even in high school, she said it. But even her husband, she noticed, kind of had a soft spot for her too. And she brought it up. And he's like, no, I love, my woman a little bit darker. Which is funny because this woman can pass for white too. But you want your woman darker, meaning a woman who can pass versus someone darker that looks unambiguously Black, like your health does. But that was definitely a thing back then, And even now, there are studies, even today, that say lighter skinned Black women marry more often. We know it back then. There were paper bag tests. If you were not lighter than a brown paper bag, you couldn't get into this elite organization, or you couldn't do this, or you couldn't have access to this. I think that's all I got to say on this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Why don't you click on the like, drop a comment, hit subscribe. We post this, so if you don't want to miss it, hit subscribe, hit notification, all that good stuff. All right, see you in the next one. Peace.